Today we're going to talk about the roadmap to the blockchain regulation. How can we do that though? Is by understanding the blockchain. And when we mention and refer to a blockchain system, it's not only one blockchain we have. People get confused that we have only one blockchain, but we have a variety of blockchains. Before we start though, I'd like you to, if you feel free to scan the QR code. These are my contact details in case you want to ask me something later. And of course, feel free to use the Expo hashtags for this event. So today we're talking about blockchain, about virtual reality, and that kind of things, and those technologies which are actually changing our lives. A recent study from Cisco, but a recent one is back in 2013, states that the industry of the IoT, the Internet of Things, or the Internet of Everything, because nowadays everything can be online, can become a smart device, it's that huge. A small bug, if I can say bug of that report, is that the report doesn't mention about virtual reality or blockchain. So you can understand the potential and the impact of those two technologies in the whole sphere. Now, as I just mentioned before, in order to understand and create a nice and solid roadmap for the regulation related to blockchain, we have first the need to understand what blockchain is and what blockchain does. And I will not bother you a lot with the definitions of blockchain. You can find a lot of info online. So I will try to cover a variety of applications, and through those applications, we are going to end up understanding the different needs. A very basic and simple definition of the blockchain system is that it's a shared ledger requiring consensus to update. So it's not a simple database. It's a very smart way of passing the data to the public and keep everything online. And of course, the way that data is verified and passed online, it's via the so-called consensus mechanisms. And of course, blockchain, it's a whole ecosystem. Blockchains in general, the distributed ledger technologies, and we can say that this new technology, it's like a global giant platform which provides trust to a variety of industries. So what blockchain is, quickly, it's a public ledger, it's a public database of verified though information, and it's immutable, it cannot be changed, you cannot go back and adjust the data. So it's a peer-to-peer transactions between the participants. It's global and decentralized, so there is no centralized authority regulating or supervising the blockchain. It provides direct settlement, something we don't have in the existing financial markets, which is a great advantage of such a system. And all transactions involve value. When you exchange data from A to B or from B to A, the transaction has some numeric value, some financial value. And something a lot of people get confused, it's the understanding of cryptocurrencies and blockchains. So blockchain is the underlying technology, and cryptocurrency, it's the token, the asset, the digital asset of that each unique blockchain system. Generally, we are referring to blockchain because it's a nice buzzy word, but the whole industry is actually renamed to distributed ledger technologies. Blockchain, in simple terms, it's a series of blocks. Blocks contain different information, and they are linked one to the next one. And when the information is verified, it's going public, it's released to the audience, and we move on to the next block, which is a set of information which contains a variety of things. So it's not only one dimension, it's not only one value. A block can contain a variety of things, like a smart contract, we can contain pricing, rules, specifications and things like that. So let's move on, though, to the cryptocurrencies and have a look at the difference between the cryptocurrencies and the blockchain. Can I see hands on who knows those two symbols? Okay, good. How many of you have invested in those things? I know there are a couple of regulators here, but don't be afraid. Okay. And who knows this guy? I see some correlations. So actually, people who know this guy are not the people who know cryptocurrencies, but it's a nice correlation. And we can talk hours and hours and hours saying that and arguing that a blockchain system provides trust, and actually it's not the tool for money laundering. Cash operations is actually the tool for the largest anti-money laundering operations, globally. But it's nice to see that people who understand cryptos also understands how to do money laundering and that kind of things. It's a nice correlation between the two. So is Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies in general the future of money? Again, it's a big argument. At the current state, we cannot say that one of those existing cryptocurrencies is going to be a method of payment. There are still a lot of issues, a lot of difficulties. And it's worth mentioning that we are passing on to the next generation of blockchains, which may not be called blockchains. They will generally be called distributed ledger technologies. One of those is hash graphs, so the way we choose, instead of having blocks, the way we choose to have verified information passed online, it's quite different, and there is an increased number of transactions which we can do. So at the moment, there is no risk of stating that one of those cryptocurrencies is actually going to replace fiat payments like dollars, euros, and so on. Generally, we have a lot of cryptocurrencies. We have more than 1,000, and we have more than 2,500 crypto tokens in general. Again, something you have to understand and discriminate between the two. A cryptocurrency, it's a digital asset. It's a token which is on top of one blockchain, but a token is one digital asset which may exist. One blockchain can actually facilitate a variety of different digital assets. So we have one cryptocurrency for one blockchain, but one blockchain can actually facilitate a number of digital assets, the so-called tokens. Some specifications and details about the Bitcoin. Bitcoin is simply a protocol. It's like a messaging signal we have for the SWIFT in a very advanced way, though. And it facilitates transactions from A to B. Why do we care, and why are we discussing about blockchain regulation today? It's because of the price of those things. Unfortunately, that's a sad story, but that's why we're here to discuss this one. For us, being in the industry for so many years, we have been investigating blockchain in the past. We don't care about the price, we care about the technologies, but it's also good that we have this awareness also because of the price. Something else I want to show you here is that one of those digital assets, the tokens, and each one of those actually have some specifications. And those can actually be considered as possibly financial instruments or contracts, and we can predefine how they can trade. And possibly that's one of the ways how we can regulate one of those products. Understanding the specifications, and if we go and analyze them and make a framework in the way we trade it. Now, let's move on and try to see different topics and a variety of applications. And through those applications, try to see the different pieces of regulation we have to develop, and then at the end of the day, merge in order to have a complete blockchain system. The first application is for you guys. You can buy products, any kind of products. My favorite one, it's pizza. Yesterday was the day 9 years after the first pizza was bought with Bitcoins. And is someone familiar with this case? Does someone know how much Bitcoin the guy paid? 10,000 Bitcoins. So today's price is 72 million euros. And if you want to have a party, that's my friend, just come and find me later. We can all go to Slovenia. Every year, 23rd of May, can go have a nice pizza, and the guy is paying with Bitcoins. Now let's have another one real showcase. Just sit back and enjoy this video for a couple of minutes.
This is George. He's from the UK. He's currently in Russia, and he's looking for his next trip on xtravel.com. He's buying a ticket from London to Bali with his credit card. Because his card is linked to his UK bank account, that's where the money's journey starts. And because xTravel is based in the United States, that's where the money is going. But since the ticket was purchased in Russia, xTravel needs to remit the money back to the Russian BSP. From there, because he's flying with a Dubai-based carrier, the money moves again. Furthermore, that airline needs to pay fees to the Bali airport, so yet another payment happens. By now, George's money has seen more of the world than him. As we have just seen, our industry is wasting time and resources moving money from place to place. Every part of this journey exposes us to risk. When a ticket is sold, the airlines can be exposed to risk up to 45 days. When you consider that aviation is a $2.7 trillion industry, this is a lot of risk to accept. So imagine that we could reduce 45 days to 45 minutes. What if there is a technology that could enable this transformation? What if we could create a supranational industry-wide currency, the IATA coin? IATA coin would enable airlines and business partners to do business in a single currency, making worldwide payments in a faster, cheaper, safer way. This is now possible thanks to blockchain technology. The blockchain's distributed ledger keeps financial records across multiple nodes, not in a single centralized repository. It's a peer-to-peer network with no intermediaries, and it enables us to realize what today seems impossible. Through it, we can create our own IATA currency and use it to pay each other directly. This will reduce commissions and eliminate many kinds of fees. Without intermediaries, we can speed up payments. The distributed ledger is safe and transparent. No one can manipulate or change the data, and immediate settlement reduces the risk of fraud. We can also automate payment processing and bookkeeping, which helps to control back-office costs. The future is already here, and industries like ours can't afford to wait. So let's stop sending George's money on holiday. Let's start settling our accounts from now on using blockchain technology. Together, let's make the IATA coin a success story.
And actually, that's a real product which is out there for the last 2 years. For those who don't know it, it's running on a test environment by IATA. More than 200 airliners are currently using that one. We have helped as well into that project. It's a very big project. But imagine how difficult it is to regulate a product which is actually global. Yeah, it's been used for the payment, so perhaps we can use it and regulate it as a form of payment, but it also interacts with other regulations like the airline regulations, which are also very, very strict. Another example from our daily lives I want to share with you, it's the supply chain. We buy a product and how that product is delivered from a place A to B. And for this specific example, we have the parameter of temperature. So in the block of information, we just measure the temperature. But imagine that we could also add insurance to that contract or other things, late payments, delayed payments, and that kind of things. Imagine if we want to provide halloumi, let's say, to German citizens. And we have to monitor the temperature because it's very crucial. It's cheese. It has to be fresh. It has to taste nice. So the process from the processor to the grocery store, actually, there are too many intermediaries. And for each delivery, we have to monitor the the temperature of the product, which is cheese for this specific scenario. How easy is that to be done? And what is the way in order not to raise arguments between the supplier and the buyer? One way to do it is to provide transparency, and transparent set of information, which is via blockchain system. And actually, all of the applications I'm showing to you today are real applications which exist, unfortunately abroad, not in Cyprus. And actually, when there is a match between the two, or the buyer and the supplier, or the two carriers, somewhere in between, there is a smart contract, which is actually a digital code representing a physical contract, and enables the payments upon the delivery of the product, but the product is also in a good shape. I do apologize for the bad quality of the picture, but generally we can link everybody to a blockchain system where we can measure the different parameters of the supply chain steps, and we can have all the participants, like the producers, the distributors, the retailers, and at the end of the day, the end user, so we can actually verify that what we eat or what we buy, it's actually of good quality, and it's real, and it's not scam, or it's not a Chinese code. So that's a very good example. I will go through those examples a bit fast. It's also critical to understand the IPs, the securities, the rights of the different products we have. A good example is from the University of Nicosia in Cyprus, where all academic degrees are issued on a blockchain. So if you apply for a job, let's say in China, you can give the code to your new employer, and the employer can verify with a click of a button that you are indeed a graduate of that university. And you can do that, you can apply that in music rights, in movie rights, in a lot of things. Or generally, we can do different applications in more complicated structures, like the payments, and that's a complete picture, let's say, of a payment system. Also, we are here today. We are at the IFX Expo of 2018 because we are all coming from the regulated space, from the financial markets, and that is a space which is highly fragmented. There are so many new regulations, so many restrictions, and actually with the use of the appropriate blockchain setup, we can actually eliminate all the intermediaries, and always for the best benefit of the client, of the end user. And starting from the financial markets, perhaps it's more clear the steps we could make when we design or we implement a blockchain system. We can apply a blockchain system in supervision, governance of the governments, of the supervisory bodies. You can see decentralization of all supervisory requirements governments have, central banks have, financial markets have, authorities have, and that kind of things. So imagine how many people we need to support all of those functions. The centralized body, like a supervisory body, which is central bank or ESMA or so on. And of course, we can use it for general good purposes, for the corporate governance, for the government governance, and that kind of applications. Now, there is a bit of a buzz about ICOs and digital assets. The whole idea of the blockchain is to provide transparency and trust between the participants, between the end users. And the idea is that we are able to issue digital assets, for example, bonds, which are settled on a blockchain system. That makes transparent the volume, the price, the participants, so we kind of avoid market manipulation, insider trading, and that kind of things, which are actually the fundamentals of the financial services sector. Recently, though, there was misuse of that definition using those ICOs. Unfortunately, that's the true story. But again, we have to understand what an ICO is in order to regulate it and make appropriate steps against or with the ICOs. So an ICO actually, it's a simple mechanism to fund your operations. It doesn't matter if you are based in Cyprus or in China or in the United States. As soon as I'm able to transmit money within a couple of seconds or minutes, then it's a very easy way to create a whole new way of doing business globally. And the whole idea is that an investor or a supplier and buyer, or the two guys can actually, one can provide financing to the other, or it can do business one with another, and so on. And of course, it's not only related to B2C, it's also related to B2B operations between two businesses. So one business is selling one thing, the other business is buying that thing the other business is selling. So why do we need regulation today? So even today, we are not able to understand the nature of the companies behind those digital assets, behind those ICOs, but even further behind the fintechs, the new technologies which are coming out. So what is it, Uber? Nobody managed to regulate Uber at a global scale until today. So why is there so buzz about the ICOs and so worry about the ICOs? What is Airbnb? Is it an exchange? Is it a tour operator? Actually, in my eyes, it looks more like an exchange or a technology provider or that kind of things. For the eyes of the regulator, it looks like a tour operator, for example. It's very difficult to understand. And that is the same case for the ICOs. What is an ICO? Is it a company? Who is behind it? What is the team? Are the tokens related to physical assets? Can we exchange them? Are they liquid? Can we exchange them only for services? Do they have a market price? There are a lot of questions which are raised, and we have to investigate. Of course, we have the regulators in the room. You can ask them later, too many questions, if you like. But the reason why we have this discussion today, it's because we are somewhere in this area. They are too large to be ignored. We have ICOs which managed to raise more than $200 million. So that's extreme. But the average raise of an ICO, of a successful ICO, it's something like $30 or $40 million. It's a big amount. So you collect investments, you get financing at a global scale through a variety of people whom you don't know, or in many cases, you don't even do the appropriate KYC steps. So I totally agree that the regulators have to come and play a role into this game, but they have also the need to be very cautious on how to do it and be extremely careful on how to do it. From the regulator's point of view, it's reasonable that they have no sufficient information about those companies. They are early stage. We cannot investigate a lot of, we cannot find a lot of information about the experience either of the teams or the performance of the companies as such. And there are frequent failures into the space, which makes the regulators more cautious. And of course, the big issue is that we have multiple jurisdictions and overlapping regulations, even in the financial services industry. In Europe, we have a specific set of regulations. In the States, we have something else. In Japan, it's totally different thing. In Australia, in third countries, and so on. So how possible and how easy is to regulate a system which provides trust by itself, by nature, and it's at a global scale? It's extremely difficult. So, back to the question of the day, are ICOs legal? Let's have a look at the opinion and the view of the three top regulators in the world, from the States, Europe, Europe is the third one, and the second one is FINMA from Switzerland. And try to understand the different aspect and the different point of view that three different regulators have. And from there onwards, you can make your own thoughts, how you can proceed if you are a business, and so on. There is a clear definition from the Securities and Exchange Commission in the States that market participants offer sales of digital assets. It doesn't matter if they are virtual organizations or physical organizations, or if you collect money, fiat money, i.e. euro, dollar, or cryptocurrencies. As you do that, which is maybe considered as a crowdfunding campaign, you have to go to SEC, ask them in advance before you do any operations. But at least SEC took a nice new way of applying regulation. They had redesigned kind of the regulation in order to support those ICOs. And they said, okay, you may fall, we have the Howey test, but in any case, please contact us before you do any operations. And of course, federal security laws may apply in case you do blockchain applications. You need to use a token to exchange goods or products for payments and that kind of things. So it doesn't matter if those are virtual currencies or fiat currencies like euro, dollar, or whatever. Again, you fall under the regulation of SEC. That's very clear regulation. And if you are into the business, for example, and you do operations as cryptos, perhaps you may need to get the license of swap execution facility, which is kind of new. It was there, but it's applicable in the blockchain space, in the cryptocurrencies. But at least they have a clear view on the blockchain and cryptocurrencies or cryptocurrencies operations. Now, FINMA is a bit more innovative regulator. They do deep research about cryptocurrencies. They do their own test as well. We are based in Switzerland and in Cyprus, of course. We are in close communication with FINMA. And they took a whole new approach in understanding the regulation. And they are actually trying to create new regulation to put those things under. And the good thing is that they managed to create three different categories. We have the payment tokens, the utility tokens, and the asset tokens. So the payment tokens, if they are virtual currencies only, you don't need to have a license. If there is any conversion, of course, and any relation to the fiat currencies, you need a license. For the utility tokens, 99% unfortunately of the utility tokens, which are called utility tokens, they have no real utility aspect. Or if there is utility aspect, that's very minor aspect. And FINMA is very clear and very strict about utility tokens, and utility tokens can actually named as utility tokens if they only serve the utility. So if you find tokens which are called utility tokens and they are traded online at a cryptocurrency exchange, then they have to be regulated. That's full stop. So you guys, if you invest in ICOs, please be extremely careful from now on. And of course, we have the asset tokens, which fall under the securities laws, and those are regulated. Now, we have ESMA in Europe, which is kind of trying to still understand and analyze all of those digital assets and ICOs. I know there are good working groups in European Union and ESMA as well, and CISEC as well, which is good. But we have to innovate. We have to create new regulations. Don't try to push ICOs under the CFTs. Don't try to put digital assets under the existing financial services laws. We have to create new things, like FINMA, like SEC, like Singapore, like Japan. So we see the difference between the regulators from the States, from Switzerland, and in Europe. We have to progress. Europe is a big market, and we have to take steps in order to be as innovative as the other people. Of course, there are risks involved related to digital assets and cryptocurrencies and ICOs. Those are buzzy words. They are using buzzy words. Usually, we choose how to invest based on the white paper, which is a very light version of a business plan. most of the times we don't even know the real thing behind it, or how we do escrowing of the funds, which is very critical thing, but people don't understand it. They always analyze the team, the white paper, and that kind of things. But when you send your cryptocurrencies, when you send your Bitcoins to buy some token, where is that going? Who controls the wallets? At the moment, there is no third-party authority which is kind of managing this process. Yes, we have the multi-signature wallets and that kind of things, but for the eyes of the investors, it's not clear. I have never seen an ICO stating that we are using a multi-signature wallet and it's controlled by those bodies or whoever. So it's very critical to avoid scams. And of course, never invest too much. It's like CFDs, it's like Forex, it's like leverage. Be extremely careful what you do. It's a different nature of risk, of course, but be cautious and never invest too much. High risk, high rewards, but high, very fast losing as well. And we have a variety of topics which involve risks, and those are actually categories where we see applications of the blockchain. And of course, when we deal with blockchain solutions and applications and regulations, we have to innovate. We have to create something new. Take the view of FINMA. Don't take the view of SEC or ESMA. Be innovative. Create something really innovative. Like those guys. What they have done, they have simply created kiddies, digital kiddies, online, and you could go there and buy a kiddie. And imagine it's if you buy a normal cat, it doesn't cost you, for sure, $120,000. And the CryptoKitty is nothing more than a code. It's a digital code. It's something you see online, and it's this one. And the whole idea of that one is that you're matching two kiddies, you get an egg, it's growing, and you get a new cat, and this new cat is unique. And all of those cats are unique. So those guys innovated, and what they did, they sell you the uniqueness of the cat you own. Although that's a digital cat, it's quite funny, but they managed to raise 12 million in a few days. And actually back in 2017, mid-December, there was a high demand of those CryptoKitties, and because of a very innovative product, the whole Ethereum almost went down because of those kitties. So that's another risk, of course, we have to be aware of, but let's, all of us, innovate. And even Vitalik, the owner of, and the founder of Ethereum, actually commented on the CryptoKitties, and he was so fascinated, and he never believed that he created that ecosystem, which is called Ethereum, that we can have such a thing. As a summary, though, I don't want to bother you more. When we try to regulate the space, the blockchain space, we don't refer to financial markets. We don't refer only to financial assets. We are referring to a variety of industries. We have payments, we have e-commerce, we have peer-to-peer lending, we have title records, land registries, corporate governance, public governance, and that kind of things. So when we are thinking about new regulation, we have to think how that is applied, in which industry, and so on. And of course, if you don't believe me, in the States, 1 in 3 companies is actually investigating or applying a blockchain solution into their business because they think it's innovative and it brings high value to the company. Blockchain, it's decentralized, it's open, and it has no borders by nature. It can serve a variety of applications. So that is blockchain. Thank you so much. Try to regulate it in a very innovative way. Thank you so much. I can take a couple of questions if you like.
Could you please clarify a little bit more what's the difference between cryptocurrency and tokens? Because I didn't understand correctly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. For for a blockchain system, we always have a cryptocurrency, which is actually kind of the fuel of the blockchain. Now, we have blockchain systems, though, like Ethereum, which is a whole platform where you can issue a variety of tokens. So you can issue more than one tokens. Yes, Ethereum has its own currency, which is called Ether. And on top of Ethereum, though, you can issue a variety of tokens. You can have your own ICOs. You can issue your own digital assets. You can settle bonds, for example, equity, and that kind of things. So on top of Ethereum, you may have a variety of different cryptocurrencies. Ethereum or blockchain system, it's the technology. Each technology has at least one, it has one cryptocurrency, but it can also facilitate tokens. So a blockchain system has a currency, and it may have also a variety of tokens. Yeah, for example, you are a company and you want to raise capital in order to finance your operations. You have an ICO, i.e. you issue a token, an Ethereum-based token, you go public, you offer it, and you say that my token costs $1 equivalent, but you have to spend Ethers in order to buy it.
So like my virtual share?
It may be share, it may be service, it may have utility, it may be a bond, it may be anything.